Hello and welcome to this GDI meeting. Today we'll be covering HTML buttons and how to code for their functions with JavaScript. And so on the agenda for today, we'll be quickly reviewing the history of JavaScript and its applications from last meeting. And then we'll be learning how to create HTML buttons and code for JavaScript alert functions to make these buttons dynamic. And then as always, we'll also have practice and we'll also go over a sample solution for today's meeting. And so here's a quick recap of the last meeting, which was doing an introduction to JavaScript.
So the history of JavaScript. JavaScript was created by Brendan H., who named it LiveScript in 1995 before its name got changed. And it's a client-side processing language, meaning that a browser reads the code and runs it directly. It interacts with HTML and CSS to make a website and lets websites be dynamic and respond to input from users. It remains one of the most used programming languages today. JavaScript can create fully featured web applications such as social media apps, and it can also create image lightboxes, which are very useful when trying to highlight a particular detail of your site, and has interactive elements like tabs, sliders, and more to make the website fun for the user. So today we'll be covering how to code for HTML buttons, but in the next few meetings, we'll be working on how to create sliders and make them functional on a canvas. JavaScript can additionally keep track of users with cookies and store data with local storage. You can also code JavaScript to make drawings and animations.
So the general layout of HTML buttons is that setting up the button is done by HTML while the function is coded for in JavaScript. And so listed below are the HTML and JavaScript code for a button and also producing alerts on a web page, which we'll cover more in detail on the next couple of slides. And so the example here basically codes for a button that says click me, and it'll open up a pop-up box that says you clicked me when clicked. So the general syntax for a button is input type equals to quotations button, close quotations, value equals to whatever text you want in the button. And then on click is equal to some function, which we just called here change. So here we just suppose that the function change is described in the JavaScript section. And then with a little CSS design, the following HTML code will output this button shown.
Designing buttons with CSS. So using CSS to design HTML buttons are obviously optional, but they make your website a lot more fun, and it's also a really creative process. So CSS makes sure your button looks nice and your website outlook is friendly to the user. And examples of commonly used features are width, margin, font size, color, text alignment, border radius, and others. And for a complete list and some exercises regarding these properties, you can visit the link listed when we email the slides out later today.
All right, so the general syntax for a JavaScript function is the function, then function name with any parameters you want, and then inside the curly braces, whatever code you want to execute. The alert, parentheses, codes for a pop-up box that will be executed every time you call this function. And don't forget the semicolon at the end of the line of code. And so in this example, the function change pops up an alert that says, congratulations, your code worked. And this is how it looks like on a web page. So it's just an embedded page for DigiPen. So now that we learned about HTML buttons, you all can go ahead and try to add a button to your site. And today you'll basically be making a button that when clicked, it does something. If you don't know where to start, you can use the example on the right, where we have the HTML and JavaScript code for a button that says click me and has a message pop-up box that says you clicked me when clicked. So go ahead and take 5 to 10 minutes to try and code up a button on your own website. And we'll be moving on in a couple of seconds. Okay, assuming that you pause the video, we're going to go ahead and move on to the solution. All right, so here we have a button that says click me as coded for in the HTML section, which you can see right here. In the CSS section, we changed some of the properties to give like the button a pink color and also to change the shape of it. It's like rounded at the edges here. And then the change function in the JavaScript section codes for an alert that says, congratulations, your code worked. And we can test if all of this code works by clicking this button. Okay, and then so we got a pop-up that says the alert text. So this worked. Cool, and that's basically how you code it for a button with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right, and here's just a screenshot of the program we just looked at. All right, and that's it. Thank you all for watching up to this point. Our next meeting will be released on March 10th, so in 2 weeks, and we'll be going over HTML input functions and introducing the Canvas element. There's the sign-in form, again, in case you weren't able to fill it out before. And that's it. See you all in 2 weeks' time.